The first time I went down, it was like going down a roller coaster ride. I was screaming and getting a huge adrenaline rush out of it. When you're so alert that you might get hurt, that's when something really changes. You're able to stay more focused. You're doing things that you thought you couldn't, whether it's your balance, your coordination, your timing, your steering. Once you start, you have to do the best you can. Basically, you just have to go for it, use gravity, reach the finish, and do that as fast as possible. That's the main goal. My name is Shiva Keshevan. I am from India. I am a luge athlete.
Attention, clear the track. Track is clear from the finish to start.
The luge is a board which an athlete lies on, feet first, hurling down this ice track. You're about 10 centimeters above the ice, and you don't have any protection or anything between you and the walls. You have to negotiate this 1,500 meters plus track, avoid all the obstacles. You don't have an engine, and you don't have any brakes. Lugers compete against the timer, and on an artificial track, we are timed to the thousandth of a second. This makes luge one of the most precisely timed sports in the world. Luging could be considered dangerous because of the high speed involved in it. So the potential for danger is great, but that depends upon each individual, how much you expose yourself to danger, how much you train, and what you're training to face. So you really have to push yourself, at least mentally, to the extreme. I was born and brought up in the Himalayas, in a small village, at a time when there were no roads and electricity. I see 3 6,000 meter peaks from my valley, so that is the majestic Himalayas. The mountains have a very mystical feeling about them. One of my favorite things is to walk the Himalayas, to mountaineer, and to ski. Many people think of India as this tropical, hot country. They don't know that we also have snow and mountains. My father is from the south of India, from the seaside. The first time he saw the mountains and snow, he was in his 30s, and he decided to settle down there. My father started an adventure tours company. So we are used to mountaineering, trekking, and skiing. That's how I actually got interested in winter sports and snow sports in the first place. There was nothing else at that time. There was no TV, no video games. You just had to go outdoors and do something. The International Federation in 1995 was looking to recruit new athletes from new countries for this sport. And that is when, by complete chance, I was introduced to the sport, and I discovered that I had talent for it. And since then, I've never looked back. Luge is a Winter Olympic sport. It is fairly well known in the Alpine countries, specifically Austria and Germany. In other parts of the world, for example, India, where I'm from, is relatively unknown, and I'm the first athlete which is doing it competitively. So the guy sitting next to me is Duncan. He's my coach, and he's also the guy who made this new sled. And we've been training together for a couple of years now. I came here to train in Lake Placid mainly because Duncan lives here. Our workshop is here where we're building the sled. And I needed to spend some time here so that we can have enough time for testing and perfecting this piece of equipment which we're making. Also, in luge, it's very important to train at the actual venue of the race. And the World Cup is coming here to Lake Placid. And I need to get in tune and get practice and to memorize the track over here to be able to be confident on it and perform better. We're going back to the shop, making some final adjustments to our machine here. Duncan is one of the best US athletes in luge. He won about 21 medals in various World Cups around the world in his time. And so having Duncan is very good for me because he can tell me technique, he can tell me the lines down many of the tracks of the world. It's the first time I've ever had a personal trainer. It's very different from what I was used to so far as training is concerned. And he's basically responsible for developing their current equipment.
Yeah, let's see what we got here.
A big focus for us has been also to develop our own equipment. And so me and Duncan, we've been building this equipment and we've been looking for partnerships with many other companies. For example, there's a university based in New York that helped us to design the current shell which we're using.
I think we're in a good place with that.
Yeah?
Yep.
Here we're checking out the bow of the steel, and this is very important to have more control on the ice. This whole thing has a kind of a bow to it like that, which means that it's only touching the ice in one point. And this point keeps moving depending on how your weight is moving and how the curve is coming. So it's very important to have this dialed in, depending on each track, you change all these things. There's some other companies which are working with Formula One, which helped us to do some aerodynamic testing. So this way, it's a very amateur setup, but we are able to involve so many people who are either inspired by the story or who want to help out in some way, and that's how I think this year we have quite a nice sled. Right now, I am living my dream. Sometimes I think that I'm selfish to spend all this time thinking of myself, my own improvement. But you make a choice, and each choice has its own consequences. So in India, we don't have a luge track. So the only way to practice is on the roads, modifying the sledges with wheels called street luges. The Olympic Games for me was one of the most incredible, amazing experiences. My first games was in 1998. I was a 16-year-old kid. And then to actually go and be able to walk with these people in the opening ceremony and then to be able to compete with these people and realize that, they're human and they can be beaten. And I was just so overwhelmed to see the kind of facilities, the kind of competition, and the whole atmosphere surrounding the Olympic Games. It was really, really inspiring for me. A typical day in the training season is completely focused on sport. That takes up all the day. We wake up in the morning, do our morning exercise routine, probably head out to the track early. You have to warm up and make sure your body is ready to go down the track. So in luge, we have very minimal protective gear because everything is pushing you to go faster rather than to go safer. But at the same time, we have certain essentials. We have a helmet to protect ourselves from head injuries. We wear a visor, which is mainly to stop the wind going in your eyes, but it also helps you in case there is any impact. You don't get anything in your face and those kind of injuries to your head area. But apart from that, we don't have any brakes, so that is one factor which is out of the equation. Typically, before going down the track, I like to go through the track in my mind, visualize exactly how it's going to be. And it's also a kind of meditation because you enter a zone in which you clear your mind of all other thoughts. You go over each curve and you have, these kind of trial runs in your head. And by the time you actually get to the track, you feel that you've already done it so many times and you're that much more confident. Fear is an important emotion because it's the instinctual way of your body saying that it feels some danger. There's something where you could get physical harm, but I want to overcome that. Overcoming your limits is the same as facing your fear. We have between 3, 4 or maximum 5 runs in one session. Then we have a short break to get some food. And then we'll have a second session in the afternoon. Always got my back.
That's what we get paid for, man.
Attention, clear the track. The track is now clear from the finish.
Then, all right, I'll just get a nice roll going and see how it goes. Well, immediately after your run, you get on the radio with your coaches, you get their perspective on things. You discuss your mistakes and you see what opinion the coaches have had of your run. Okay, thank you. And then we work on the sled, try to fine-tune it, try to figure out what problems there are, if any changes need to be made. And that's a very important part of the training, because the more runs you have, the more feedback you get, and then you have to rectify it in the next run. I can still improve and get better, so I want to continue doing this for a long time. In this sport, you get better when you're older, because you need a lot of experience to get better. I have a dream that I'd like to win the Olympic Games, and to follow that dream, to reach that ultimate dream, you have to set goals which are achievable, and you have to have a plan to work towards. So you have to be realistic, but at the same time you need to dream, because that's where your energy will come from. I'm a bit unlucky that being the first one, I wasn't able to use much of the infrastructure in India, but it'll definitely be a help for the future journey.
Attention, clear the track. The track is now clear from the finish.